Hey, thanks for tuning in. Here's the artillery kit I've been working on. The Takom 135th Big Bertha howitzer. This was a 420mm siege weapon used in World War I. A 2016 tooling. I was looking for something unique and impressive for the channel. The box is massive, 18 by 11 by 3 inches. There are chapter markers below, so you can skip this box opening if you want. Let's look inside. This is sprue A, which looks to be the cannon base, shield, and barrel. The tabs are very thick. In places, the tab extends onto the part surface. This is sprue B. Very nice texturing there. This is sprue C. This is sprue D. Looks like some control pieces, a shell, etc. Sprue E. Looks like wheels, track pads, ladders, etc. In the bag were instructions, color schemes, a chain, and polycaps. You'll see the instructions in the video as I build this up. I've not mentioned this before. I always wash the plastic before I start. Hand soap and warm water, no matter how new the kit is. The upper deck. It's easier to put the sides on one at a time. There's 2 little notches at this end and that end. Attach the ends and then work my way in. Flip it over to add the base. There's a very fine lip that the base fits down on. A sizable gap at the front. You have to deal with that. The front end levers up. In general, the indexing pins are very small on this kit. Once I could return it upright, I added those handles. The mold line runs right along the rivet line. On both sides. The ends fit on just fine. Little bit of give along there. It closed up with some clamps. One thing I wish I had done was leave this part off. It's a worn steel color. Now I have to mask it before or after I paint the deck. The part prep on this kit is quite high. I've built this kit to keep it as modular as possible for painting. The square peg is really shallow, so there's some wiggle. At least on my kit, the legs were bent a little. No worries, I locked the straightest one in first, and the most bent one in last. I've prepped and primed the brackets. I'll add them at the end. I'm going to attach those to their braces in the next step. That goes in at an angle. Not sure why the notch is a trapezoid. There's a thin lip on the sides where the front plate goes. Two sockets, because it tapers to the back. Like that. Time to prime up to this point. It has 4 walkways, large ones in the front and back, and a couple on the side. making it plumb. The instructions get denser as you go. It comes with one 420mm shell. Fortunately, the fit is great and the seam is manageable. I used Surfacer 1000, sanded, primed, touched it up, and then reprimed it. This is part of the shell hoist. The thinner pin goes in the socket. This is the densest plastic I've worked with. I'm normally 600, 800 grit for parts like this, but was 400 to 600. There's no depression on the handle. Instead of drilling a hole, I just sliced it off. Pretty much every part was like that. There's some injection marks you need to fill. Don't worry, I break it down for you bit by bit. I'll wait to join those so I can pose them at the end. These are the walkway safety chain posts. I looked at that one and it broke. They have a terrible ridge and several nubs. I measured and my straight pins are only slightly smaller. I removed part of the pin head. Then the tip. The kit came with the chain. I CA glued the chain at the top of the posts. The 4 ladders also had the flash line right along the rivet line. You need to sand the part on the right down a bit so it'll sit flush. This is the main axle for the wheels. There should be an overhang. This is important. The overhang line should not be parallel with the base. That base levers up. Then the axle line ends up level with the ground. It should look like this. This was tricky. I tacked the outer ones in, then the inner ones. Don't CA glue them in just yet. Use some extra thin, you'll see. I had an Oscar Madison moment. These are the stands that lift the front of the gun carriage up. The one on the right had a sinkhole at the seam. I cut tape to its shape, and it worked a charm. Then I CA glued the brackets on once the bar was in. I attached the jack stands separately. You'll see in a bit. I had to move those long braces away from the carriage quite a bit. Once I had this fitted, I then CA glued those brace rods in place. I accidentally cut the tiny pins off the front of those brackets. The indexing pins are tiny. The pins are situated so you can't put it in wrong. You need to tidy that up. For each facet, half of it will be visible. The wheel blocks come in two halves. I join them and clean them up. It's going to make painting them and the wheels a lot easier. There's a pin on both sides of the wheel for the block. What I did was remove the little pin on the inner side. I kept them, and I'll add them back once in place. Using this like a cotter pin. The toothpick kept the ring symmetrical. This is the barrel insert and the muzzle end, which is separate. I'm going to paint the inside now before I seal it up. I'm test fitting to be sure I can add the insert pieces later. Yep, no problem. I have filled, sanded, and repeated until I was happy with the seam. I could just make out the seam near the breech. I've added the breech cap and lower recoil stop. You don't have to assemble it over the cannon. Let me show you. I want to be sure I can glue this piece on now. No problem, there's plenty of movement. I couldn't find anything asymmetrical for which side took the long or short ends. They just go on one way. I'm going to dry fit this all now and glue the recoil stop on. You can put the saddle on after it's assembled. This went together great. The fit and the joins are spot on. There are 2 tiny notches for those braces. Start with this piece. I added them in this order. Add this, then the side pieces. You need to clean up these depressions first. Someone asked a good question. The extra thin will go through the paint. Use a little more than you usually would. Keep a bottle just for this. It'll go cloudy quick. And another bottle for clean plastic. Pretty much the final step, the shield. There are 4 of the smaller ones. Two of the larger ones. And 4 of these braces or hinges for the shield wings. Oh, and 2 of those. And here we are. In part 2, I'll do the undercoating, camo painting, weathering, and final assembly. I hope you enjoyed this latest armor build. Thanks for watching. Be well and happy modeling.